Hi, welcome back to The Experience. This is Sarah, and today we're talking about emotional alchemy and my personal methods for transforming my mental patterns from something that's undesirable to something that is desirable, something that does not serve me to something that does serve me in my future goals, my higher purpose, whatever it may be. And I hope you enjoy this video. Please let me know if there's anything along the way you have questions on, and give it a thumbs up and do the comment, and you know what you gotta do. You know what you gotta do, and I know that you know, so let's just move on. First, disclaimer, of course. I think most of these are going to have disclaimers because I am not a mental health professional, nor should you take my advice as the final end-all be-all of a solution to something you're enduring. If something needs professional attention, I recommend that you definitely seek someone out that can give that to you, because this is not that. This is just me discussing what I experience, and hopefully it can alleviate some things for you, but I am not going to be able to fully help with whatever you're experiencing from the screen that I'm in. You know, and I don't know your personal situation, and it definitely changes from person to person, the abilities to do what I'm about to explain, and also how much it might take out of you, or the things that it might bring up for you. It can become a little triggering sometimes, the things that you uncover, but those things ultimately are going to be your most profound tools in your emotional toolbox, so to speak. So it's just important to keep that in mind, that you definitely might need to find someone that you can explain these things to specifically, that can give you the personal answer. Last disclaimer, more of a personal statement. I know that I haven't shared a lot about my life on here, and I don't know how much of it I really will get into in details, but I would just like to state that I have formed this healing process out of pure necessity to be a sane human that functions in the world. I've had a very, very, very uncommon life, and it has pushed me into having to break down the barriers of what I think reality is and rebuild it based on what I want in my life, because my life has been very, very, very challenging, and in a way where I don't feel ashamed of it, and I don't feel like I have been slighted. I am who I am because of what I have experienced and because of the ways that I have reacted to that. And I am who I am because of the ways that I chose to be, not because of the ways that life pushed me into being. And I just wanted to explain that before I get into all of this, because it's not just a bunch of bull. It has helped me get through my entire life. So I would love to get more into it though if you have questions, because to me it is almost like riding a bike, and I don't think about all the different steps. So this was actually a challenge for me to try to break it down in a way that was digestible for someone else. And I could understand if it's maybe not super easy to grasp, but I would like to go more into it if it's necessary. I hope that this is helpful. So what is emotional alchemy, you ask? What even is this thing you're talking about? It is taking one state of thought and transforming it into a different state of thought. I like to think of it like you are an artist, and you create these works of art throughout your life, and those works of art are versions of yourself. So maybe you start painting with the same 3 colors, but you find that red doesn't really suit you anymore, and that when you see red in your paintings, it doesn't feel right anymore, and it's actually making you dislike them. So maybe in the next one, you don't use red, or you replace red with green, and then you like it much more. You're like, that feels more authentic to me, that's good. We'll do that until I find something else I'd like to change. So you keep doing that, and then you maybe add different techniques, or you change the technique. You maybe want to simplify what you've done because you've been doing very complicated things and it's too much. It's too much to handle anymore. So you can scale down. We always have the ability to create ourselves and our space and our reality, and it's important to keep that in mind. You have that power already. That is not something you have to gain. You already have that, and it's just using it and holding it and keeping it. There are a few steps before the main activity, so to speak, that I would like to discuss before we get into the real nitty-gritty of emotional alchemy. First of all, I think it's really necessary to make peace with your choice to change whatever part of yourself or thoughts or activities that it might be. Just finding the reason for yourself with no one else's opinions involved, because this is for you and only about you. So finding what you want to be or embody, or what you want to eliminate from your mental processing that is bringing you down, and letting go of any versions of yourself that are not what you want to be. And sometimes, I know that sounds simple, oh yeah, I don't want to be that anymore, so I'll just let that go. But sometimes we hold on to ideas about ourselves that are not from ourselves, and we think that if we let that go, we're somehow giving up or losing something. But I think it's important to keep in mind that you can be whatever you want to be for yourself, and that anything that is causing you any emotional turmoil is not worth holding on to, because it is not going to help you in that journey. And so therefore you have to keep in mind that you're going to change parts of yourself that you might feel are very big parts of yourself, and it can sometimes be tethered in with things that you don't even know about. So just be prepared to really take a look at who you are and who you think you are, and be okay with changing that at its core. Otherwise, it's going to be really difficult to take out and replace some of these pieces and feel okay about that. Because I've found myself even letting go of some situations or feelings about things as feeling like I'm giving up or that I'm surrendering to it. But really, in the long run, it's only made me feel more free. A lot of the things that you might have to tackle mentally is going to be a lot of limiting thoughts. Limiting thoughts are things that you're telling yourself that minimize your ability or the possibilities of things that could occur simply based on what you think is happening or what you think might be holding you back. But in reality, you might actually be very capable of doing the thing. A lot of what you'll have to get through is your own limiting thoughts. So keep that in mind if you're ever I can't do that. Is that true? Or are you just worried that you might not be able to do it? And if you don't try, you will continue on living with the thought that you can't do that. But you probably can. Another thing is you have to be very honest with yourself, because if you are minimizing your own involvement in your struggle, you will not make any progress. You have to admit when you yourself are causing yourself struggle. No one else is in here. No one else is in my mind. I am the only one in here. And anyone else's thoughts or ideas or beliefs that exist in my mind, I know that that is not mine. And sometimes it can be hard to differentiate that, because sometimes people are very forceful or controlling or just very good at convincing us that that's our thought. Their belief is our thought now. But it's not. And you can let it go at any time, and I recommend that you do, because that person is experiencing their own journey and you are experiencing your own journey, and it is not a good idea to get the two mixed up and confused. It is healthy to separate in this sense from most others, because you need to stay authentic to yourself, and oftentimes other people's opinions are not exactly yours. So definitely be honest with yourself with how you feel and what you believe, because oftentimes even the negative things about ourselves, we did not begin existing with that thought. It was put onto us by a person, society, an experience, what have you, but that does not mean it has to follow you for your entire life. And you'll feel more free without it, oftentimes. If it's a negative, you should let it go. I don't want you to blame yourself. You can recognize if you are standing in your own way without then adding on a bunch of self-hate to that. I've thought, hey, I do this thing and it ultimately causes me a lot of trouble, but I think I have the ability to stop doing that or to change my probability of doing that, because I don't want to do that anymore. I don't have to think oh gosh, I'm so awful or I'm so this, that for doing this to myself. Oh, I just feel so bad about that. Well, that's also adding on more for you to dig through to feel better. So instead of adding that on, you can just say, wow, I do this thing. That's wild. I shouldn't do that anymore. So you then become okay with changing that about yourself. And it being a positive experience. I deserve to not do that, or I would feel better if I didn't do that, and then enacting that in the future with the thought of I deserve better, rather than I have to change because I'm the worst, which is not helpful. A lot of people are out here abusing themselves, and we've taken others' abuse and turned it into something that we do to ourselves, and it's important to eliminate that first. And I'm not going to pretend that everyone out here has the same level of self-worth that I have achieved, and it has been work and an achievement that I feel so positively about who I am and myself, because I know everyone has a lot of things about themselves that they don't enjoy or that they feel negatively about. And I think that even if you have those feelings about yourself, you can make a commitment as you would a friend to improve for you and to help yourself instead of hurt yourself. And it's a daily practice. It's not going to happen overnight. It's something you have to always remember. You have a negative thought about yourself, then you have to say, wait a minute, hold on. No, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to think this different thing that is positive, or that is forgiving, or that is at least content. You might say, oh, I don't like how I look today. But that doesn't have to translate into I think that I am ugly. It can say I'm having an off day today, and I will just continue on living my best life because the way I look does not change who I am. So just having the different positive thought, replacing it, and catching the negative thoughts as they come is the best way to build up this practice. I wrote this out in a step-by-step process to try to make this easier for anyone that might need a visual representation, and I will do my best to put something up on the screen or a whole screen to illustrate what I've done. So first and foremost, you feel the emotion. Something happens and you think, oh, here we go. I'm gonna feel that thing I always feel. We're gonna go right into that normal default emotional response. And it's probably something that is causing you more struggle than it is actually helping in real time, is just to observe that feeling. Sit with that, and I'd like to say if it's too much to handle, to be cautious with that. Don't sit in it longer than you need to learn from it. What your goal is with this step in observing is to listen to whatever message your emotion or brain is trying to send to you about the situation that you're in or about the emotion that you're feeling. So if something happens and you have this response, there's a reason that you're having that response. It's either something you've endured, something that might trigger a chain of thoughts in your mind, and it might not actually relate to the situation that you're actually in the moment. So just observing, I feel this way, and I'd like to know why I feel this way. And if it ties to something that has happened to me, knowing what it is referencing so that you know what the core of what you're feeling is. As soon as you pinpoint what the message is, stop dwelling right then, because it is no longer serving you. And that's the boundary. Once you find out what you're learning, that's when you can select, like you're selecting your paint colors, what you'd like to use and what you'd like to leave out. If you have a defense mechanism that does protect you but actually causes some harm, do you actually need that anymore? Are you out of the situation that has spawned that reaction, and do you now need to find a more peaceful way to alleviate that feeling? Because you may be safer now, or you may not have the threat of whatever caused that reaction anymore, but your body and mind and soul still feels it. And so it's alleviating, just reminding yourself, I'm not in that anymore. I have survived that or moved past that, and therefore I can now be a little more at ease if something happens that reminds me of it, because I'm not in it anymore. So you can keep what you've learned, but you don't need to keep the experience. The next step is reinforcing that anytime that you find that situation happening, that you feel or do the thing, reminding yourself gently, oh hey, remember, we're changing that. So instead of this, we're gonna just go ahead and do this new thing that we've decided is actually better for us and more healthy for us in the long run. And just doing that over and over and over and over and over and over until it is more natural. It will become the default reaction. I'm going to call it, instead of the default reaction, which is the one you started with, it's the curated reaction, because you are choosing what parts of that to keep and utilize in the future. It's like your art palette. You are curating the colors in your art piece instead of having it chosen for you. I'm feeling very overstimulated right now. I'm going to just try to calm down and get in a good headspace so that I can make a good, happy, positive video for everyone and myself. And if you can even hear me, I hope that you're having an okay day. Bye. It's the way that it takes 2 seconds to do this, but I haven't done it for 4 days. So my GoPro cut out. It happens. So I'm feeding my starter, and I was talking about how instead of feeling negatively about myself for not fulfilling the commitment I made to myself and that hobby, that instead I would focus on the fact that I am proud of myself for doing it this time after not doing it, and that I'm going to reinforce that commitment to myself to continue doing it again, because I feel better when I do what I want to do. And that counts as something that I want to do. I like having my starter. I like being able to make bread. So it's worth it on the days where I don't feel perfectly great to still do. It takes 2 minutes or so to feed the starter, like every day. You know, it's super simple, but my brain makes it feel really difficult. And it's just like feeling, you know, okay with myself for having that feeling, but also not letting it decide how I act. So it's still just promising to do the thing, even though it feels like a lot at the time, because I know that I will feel ultimately better having done it. So that's what I said on my little GoPro tangent and where it cut out. This is a very not deep example of this because I'm trying to make it as relatable to any situation as possible. So, for example, let's say I've been struggling to feed my starter regularly. It's supposed to be fed every single day. I've been feeling a little burnout, you know, and maybe I don't feel like I have the ability to go in and do that whole process. I say that whole process, but it's really not that hard. It's very simple, but that just goes to show something that's very simple can seem extremely difficult from a day-to-day basis, depending on who you are and depending on how your brain activates and works. It just depends. But for me, that can sometimes be very challenging. But instead of feeling like I might have in the past, I might have felt that I failed by not doing the thing every day, I am instead going to turn that into me being kinder to myself, but also in a way where I can reinforce doing the thing in a way that is a positive way and not something that is more harmful to my psyche or my soul in the long run. I want to build myself up. And I want to be able to do the thing. I don't want to tear myself down to do the thing. This can apply to absolutely anything that is happening in your brain noodle. This can be applied to any situation. So, for example, say it's waking up early. You want to wake up at 7:30 every morning instead of sleeping in until 12. We've all been there. Instead of telling yourself negative things about the fact that you sleep in, maybe you feel like it makes you X, Y, or Z negative traits, it's changing the thought process in your mind to, I would like to wake up early because I deserve to have my full day free or available to do the things that I want to do. If I have 3-4 extra hours, I can achieve X, Y, and Z instead of feeling like I have to cram it all in later on, and I then ultimately stay up later and then I ultimately sleep in the next day. So it's just finding the reason that is a positive, exciting reason to change your behavior or thought process instead of taking the negative route and tearing yourself down, which would ultimately just pile on more negativity, and it would strengthen the negative pathways in your mental thoughts to what end, you know? Like, it will never actually make you feel more uplifted if all you're doing is tearing it down. That's all. I hope this was helpful. I really hope that if there's anything that you are hoping to change about yourself, that you take the big step to do that. It's really important that you live a life that feels right and authentic and peaceful for you, and that you don't let anything get in the way of that. You deserve to have the life that you want, and you deserve to be able to do that for yourself. Thank you for coming back and watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. Please let me know down below if there's anything that you'd like me to discuss further. If you have questions, I can respond to those comments. And I hope that you come back for next video. Bye! My light that's making it extremely warm in here. And I wanted to wear a sweater for this video. Very exciting. Everyone's excited for me. I'm excited. And to build on that, and again, all of this, nothing, it's not